So today, I'm going to add some more money to that amount by discussing an agency called the National Technical Information Service, NTIS. This is an agency within the Department of Commerce. It was created during the Truman administration to keep all the reports produced by the federal government in a central location and make them available to the American public through sale. The idea here was the various research papers and other studies that were conducted by various agencies of the government would be centrally located in one place. The American people would have access to that research and access to that information. They had to pay for the receipt of that, and it was a modest pay for. But the money that they paid for that was to be used to pay for the administrative costs of storing this information, of providing it, making it available for people. And frankly, it was a good idea. It was the only way we really could access that. And there was important information that the government could access. Well, times have changed. Obviously, the way we store information and the way we make information available to people is entirely different than it was back during the Truman administration some 70 years ago. Today, the American people access and conduct research using a variety of tools and methods, largely online and largely for free. The abundance of free information then has obviously greatly decreased the need for the NTIS. And in fact, last year, the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, found that 3/4 of the documents added to the NTIS collection in the past 20 years can be found elsewhere, and 95% of them could be found for free by using a basic search on Google. When testifying before the Senate, the Government Accounting Agency said, and I quote, "The legislation that established NTIS requires it to be financially self-sustaining to the fullest extent feasible. However, the increasing availability of the information that NTIS collects and disseminates, primarily through the web, has called the service's basic statutory function into question." Well, that's a mild way of saying, look, this is an outdated, antiquated way of providing benefits to the American people to get these scientific papers and this research. They no longer have to go through NTIS to get this. It is available for free. And the irony here is that if you do dial up NTIS on their website, they say a large message comes up, first thing on the screen, saying, before purchasing from us, you may want to check the free access opportunities, and then they list those. Use our website, NTIS said, to get this information for free. Use the U.S. Government Publishing Office's Federal Digital System website, the federal government internet portal, USA.gov, or a web search conducted by a commercial search firm such as Google. In fact, one of my colleagues who retired from the Senate just last year actually brought to the floor and introduced an act, Just Google It Act. A clear indication that we no longer need this agency. It no longer really serves its function. And that has been introduced by Senator Kirk again this year, which I have co-sponsored. If we could pass this legislation, and here's an agency that says, don't use us anymore. You can get it for free, and we'll even show you how to get it for free. So why are we paying this, covering the cost of this, of NTIS, at a rate of $880 million over 10 years, when that savings could be applied to reducing our deficit, to giving money back, not requiring that amount of money to come from taxpayers, or better used for another essential purpose of the federal government. So what we're putting up and adding to our waste of the week this year is another $880 million, bringing our total to nearly $117 billion of savings that has been declared through nonpartisan government agencies that oversee our spending as waste, fraud, and abuse. So members cannot come down here and simply say, where are we going to get the money to cover this or do that? They can't come down here and say that it's impossible to cut any more spending. We've done all that we can do. Now we need more revenues. That simply is not the case. And I'm going to continue each week to bring up examples that are documented by nonpartisan agencies to be totally unnecessary. This is a small step in the direction of trying to deal with a much larger problem. That much larger problem is something that I have been dealing with since I came back to the Senate in after the election of 2010, and I'm going to continue to talk about it, even though it's not foremost on many people's minds right now, given all the dysfunction and other problems that we're dealing with. We must not ignore the fact that we are continue to act on a deficit spending basis, meaning we spend more than we take in each year, and we have to borrow the money to cover the difference. And our national debt has moved to a staggering level of nearly $19 trillion, almost $9 trillion of that coming in less than a decade. It was 200 years, more than 200 years, before we first reached the 1 trillion mark. And we have been on a spending binge ever since then. And it's got to stop, or we're going to pay a huge price. The debt collector will be at the door. So we need the major efforts, and hopefully we will take those efforts this year. And I've already announced I'm not going to support any spending effort to continue funding for this government unless we put some policy changes in to start us down the path to fiscal responsibility. And we're working hard on that, and I'll be outlaying a number of ways in which we can do that. In the meantime, I'm saying, if you can't go big, let's at least start small. Let's at least take those things that we already know have been declared waste, fraud, and abuse by nonpartisan agencies. At least we're taking steps in the right direction.